Ridley Scott is a legendary filmmaker who has a history, no pun intended, of rubbing some people the wrong way, whether that be audiences or yes, even historians. The reality is, however, regardless of how some people may feel about him and his movies, he has been unapologetically clear that he simply does not give a f*** what most people think. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
And obviously, the sharks were not there in real life, but it's cool. Talk a little bit about, like, A, putting sharks in the movie, and B, the fact, you know what I mean? Like, did you think that balance of reality versus it's a movie?
You're dead wrong. The Colosseum did flood with water, and there were sea battles.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that a lot of people are very passionate about history. And I get it. I find history to be fascinating myself. I think we can learn a lot from history if we are getting it from the right sources. But when it comes right down to it, I do not look to my entertainment to give me an accurate history lesson. There may be instances where you can get a general idea of what actually happened in history from a film. And that could, in effect, inspire you to look a little bit deeper into it and get the real story.
That makes sense.
But let's be real, Hollywood has a history of taking certain liberties with historical stories as a way of making them a bit more cinematically appealing. I know this is hard to believe, but that is Hollywood's job after all. It's to entertain us. Now, sometimes they are very bad at their jobs, but when it comes to a movie like Gladiator II, which is in fact historical fiction, then I do think it's a little bit ridiculous to squabble over certain historical inaccuracies.
Stop it!
I do not need a history lesson when I go to watch Gladiator II. I just want to be entertained. And I think Ridley Scott, being the legendary director that he is, understands that. This is why he told historians who criticized his Napoleon biopic to get a life. He also backed up his decision to take certain liberties with that story with some pretty sound rationale, saying, quote, "It's all history. It's been reported. Napoleon dies, and then 10 years later, someone writes a book. And then someone takes that book and writes another book. And so 400 years later, there's a lot of imagination in history books." He asks the question, were you there? No. Well, shut the f*** up. I'm sorry, but the idea that anyone has a definitive, accurate record of something that happened 400 years ago is pretty far-fetched. Sure, we can make educated guesses, and that is a historian's job to a certain degree. But isn't it kind of human nature to embellish certain details when passing down stories? I mean, most of us do it every single day. If we are relaying gossip to another person, the details tend to get a bit muddled.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Not to mention, as I said in my Napoleon review, the movie came off as satire to me more so than it did a straight-up biopic. And I actually think I enjoyed the movie a lot more because of it. So mission accomplished, I guess. There were already people earlier this year taking issue with Denzel Washington being cast in Gladiator II because of his skin color. Now, I understand that this is a sensitive subject, given the pandering nature of modern Hollywood. But we are talking about Denzel Washington. Is this movie going to be more entertaining with one of the greatest actors that have ever lived in it, or some rando guy who was picked because he is more historically accurate? I don't think we can put Denzel Washington, of all people, in the lazy diversity hire category. And now we have even more controversy surrounding Gladiator II, because Ridley Scott's biggest adversaries, historians, are once again lashing out at his film.
Boo this man!
With some of them calling Gladiator II total Hollywood bullshit for having sharks in a flooded Colosseum scene. Saying, quote, "I don't think Romans knew what a shark was." Ridley Scott, of course, has now responded to these historians by saying, quote, "Dude, if you can build a coliseum, you can flood it with f***ing water. Are you joking? And to get a couple of sharks in a net from the sea, of course they can." I don't know about anybody else, but I love the way that he simplifies his arguments in a way that even if they are bullshit, they actually do kind of make sense if you look at it from a certain perspective. Just the way that he kind of dismisses the opinions of these historians, and this is their job, mind you, is kind of funny to me. But again, I don't think it's coming from a place where Ridley Scott is trying to erase history. I just think he's trying to make the most entertaining movie possible, and he gets kind of annoyed when people overanalyze it. For me personally, I don't really care if there were sharks in ancient Rome or not. At the end of the day, it will probably make for a pretty cool scene in the movie. And again, I'm not going into this movie looking for an education. I think this is another one of those fake outrage, non-controversy moments that people are latching onto. And they are doing so because the way that Ridley Scott typically dismisses criticism rubs some people the wrong way. Now, I don't know if this movie is going to be good or not. It's such a random sequel to begin with, so it's kind of hard to judge. But if I do end up not liking it, I'll let everyone know, and I can almost guarantee that the historical inaccuracies contained within the film will most likely be the furthest thing from my mind.
I don't care!
Ridley Scott is in the twilight of his career. He clearly does not give a f***. He just wants to make movies, and good or bad, I think there is something admirable about the way he chooses to tell stories.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.